Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast.
Backstage with Kennedy show. We're here at episode 26, which is mind-blowing that we've gotten to this point, but it's been a really fun journey so far. You know, musicians, athletes, entrepreneurs, just hustlers in general. And today, I actually got a very special guest, my good buddy, Kurt Black. So Kurt and I went to school together at Niagara College back in the day. Some of us want to remember that and some of us don't, but that's besides the point. But Kurt actually goes to the Canadian School of Sport Media. So being that he's doing that, he's an aspiring broadcaster, but he has a podcast called the Relegation Zone. So I'm super excited to have Kurt on the podcast, and we can talk a little bit of soccer, talk about life, all that kind of jazz. So how's it going, Kurt? What's up, brother?
Good, man. Just recovering today in my apartment. I know it's beautiful outside, but I got burnt the other day going for a little hike. So I guess I gotta take the tan slowly but surely, you know?
Yeah, that was quite the journey. What made you want to walk 5 hours?
Honestly, I like going out just to adventure the city.
Yeah.
It's really peaceful, right? You put your headphones in, you just get some music or a podcast on, and good thinking when you're out there. And honestly, going out to Scarborough Bluffs, it's a reward at the end of it, right? So first it's a physical exercise, and then you get to like relax on the beach.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. It's worth it.
I used to live out in there in the Bluffs right before we met, actually. I was living out in the Bluffs, and I loved it, man. I used to go to the Guildwood Park, which is like right on the Bluffs, and I used to just sit there for hours on end, man, and listen to Rise Against. That was my shit. So
I can imagine this.
Yeah, an Arcade Fire. That was it. Yeah. So that walk's really nice, bro. That beach is like. Did you get to lay on the beach after, or were you like, okay, time to go back home?
No, I was chilling on the beach for a while. Like that was the first thing I did. As soon as I got there, I took my shoes off, put my feet in the water. You know, they needed to cool off too after all that walking. So yeah, it was a good time.
So tell me a little bit about Relegation Zone. So obviously it's with some classmates of yours in your program, and it is soccer based, but can you give me a little bit more of a rundown in regards to what it is about and what you're really aiming to do with this podcast?
Well, it's, as you said, you know, it's people that I've met through my program at the College of Sports Media, which is located downtown Toronto. You know, the facilities there make it so easy to create content, especially like a podcast, because we have a radio booth right on set with complete editing instruments and everything like that. So with those available to us, we just got a group from our class, put it together. You know, it's not hard to find guys that are interested in soccer. We had a few Italian guys. And so it just got rolling like that. And I think, you know, the key thing whenever you're starting a podcast, you know, I'm sure you felt this as well getting started, you don't really have any clear dreams or goals with it. It's a lot of for fun to begin with, right?
Yeah.
It's a great media to just have good conversations about a topic that you're interested in. And, you know, especially for us at school, it's great training. It's practice, it's reps. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I totally get that. I think I felt kind of the same way when I started this. It wasn't so, it's never been about, you know, making money off of it or gathering fame from it. Otherwise we would not be in the podcasting business. Like that's not what this is truly for. I think if you're in love with a topic and you can speak on it pretty easily, right? Like it's fun to do. It doesn't become work, it becomes fun. And Yeah, you're a huge football guy. So, um, I've seen you. I got a little sneak peek of your first episode, a couple weeks ago there, and Juve. You got pretty fired up about Juve. Um, do you find that you do get pretty spirited during your podcast, like when you're talking about like every subject, or is it really just Juve is a real touchy spot for you?
Well, I think the Juventus is very close to my heart. So I have no fear admitting to it. I get pretty biased on there. But I think what makes our podcast maybe listenable to everyone, regardless of what team you follow, is we have personalities on our cast. You know, there's Josh, who's English. He loves the English Premier League, mainly Tottenham. Then we have Benora, who's our producer. He loves Serie A. You know, Milan, which is a rival of Juve, so that adds a little bit of banter back and forth. And then we have Sosa, who's a spicy little Latina kid, and he loves his La Liga. And he's probably as opinionated as anyone on the show, so it gets pretty spirited, and that like gives you so many different voices and different opinions, so it allows for really good banter. But yeah, anything Juve, if you watch a game with me, you'll see me change as a human being. So yeah.
Yeah. You and I watched a Bayern game one time, and that Bayern game, even that you got a little fired up. I mean, and to be completely honest, I don't think we're that big of Bayern fans by any means. And yeah, obviously Alphonso Davies, the Canadian kid, is like you gotta love him and you gotta cheer for him. But like for a game that you had no stock in, you were really amped in it.
Well, you know, you mentioned Davies. It's hard as a Canadian not to get excited about him. Um, you know, there's that bias, right? Because you'd love to see a fellow countryman do well, and especially in a sport that we haven't had much success in the past. Um, but there's such brilliance. It's like art with him, or in soccer in general. When you see something, it really like grabs your attention, right? And plus, right now I'm sensitive because as a sports, like I'm going to a school for sports media, and sports just got wiped off the schedule for months.
Mm.
So any sport would pretty much get me going at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as I told you before we started this, I got golf playing in the background. Um, Not a huge watcher of golf by any means, dude. So like I'm finding, at least for myself as well, I am getting a little fired up about things that I would never get fired up about, like NASCAR, golf. Like
You
I
lose me
am
at
not,
NASCAR.
I am not a NASCAR guy, dude.
No,
But
people have got pretty crazy during the pandemic. Like I've seen, have you caught any of those marble races? Those
no,
have gone like, there's these marble races on YouTube, and I'm telling you, man, check it out. They have a huge following. They're sponsored by Last Week Tonight with John Oliver now because
no,
he
really.
found them. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. There was this like weird league in Belarusia, the Belarusian Premier League, that just played soccer throughout the pandemic, like nothing was going on, and it was being played on like Fox because it was the only league going on. It was
Jeez.
hilarious what people like, the desperate acts. We go for a little bit of sports entertainment.
So obviously there's this Marble League. Have you thought about using some of your like broadcasting skills that you've kind of picked up over the last little bit? I mean, some of it was natural, but obviously you've refined it because of this program and just what you've learned in recent years. Um, would you think about doing like voiceovers of like the marble racing?
Oh, I would definitely be open to things like that. Like creativity is the something that you either have or you don't, I think. And this pandemic's kind of forced it out of a lot of people. I know certain people in my class that have become frighteningly good TikTok stars during this time, and with some really weird videos, but like they're just creating content every day because they're absolutely bored. And
Yeah.
I found myself doing that too, just doing a lot of editing work and making videos and stuff. So the pandemic's been good in some ways, right? Because it just forces you to sit down and put in some work. You have so much
Mhm.
free time, but I look forward to the real thing again. That's for sure.
I agree. I'm finding actually a lot of musicians. So I mean, obviously, people who are broadcasters in that realm, uh, they are having to be a little more creative with things. But also, musicians as well have to be super creative during this time. Like, it used to be like, okay, do practice, make your social media post once a day, and go to a show. Like, that was just how musicians had to do it. Now, like, the amount of people I know that are doing TikTok videos, making home videos, editing their own stuff when they used to go to the studio is ridiculous. Like, they're taking these different branches of creativity and really expanding it, which I think is actually low key. Short term, obviously it sucks, but long term, this is kind of beneficial for creatives.
Yeah, like I totally can understand that. You know, with us losing our radio studio to work in and our editing suites and all that jazz. Like I filmed a project just last week where if school was open, I would have had a tripod with a huge HD camera, and it would have been beautiful and easy and fantastic. And instead, I'm getting my dining room chairs and stacking candles so I can lamp a camera. And you just have to get super creative with it. And probably if someone walked in on you trying to film some of these things, they would think you need to go to an asylum.
Yep.
But you know, they don't see that. They just see the finished product at the end of the day. So, but it's been a learning experience.
Yeah, no, I like what you guys are doing with the relegation zone. I like what you're doing with the how you're broadcasting it, even though you guys can't be together, how you're actually keeping up with it. It's not like I don't find it's like a standard podcast production, which is kind of cool in a way. And it doesn't look like you've cheaped out at all either, which is nice. I mean, obviously it's nice to have a big ass studio, but it's nice when you can, still make your product look quite good with it, with not having that studio.
I'll give props to Mikey Benora. He's the producer, and he makes it available on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you find that. So we give him a lot of heck because he's the young one on there, but he's a good kid and he does really good work.
So is this a myth or is this a fact? With talent, does the talent show up right before and just step up on for the podcast and step up and go, all right, I'm ready to go? Or is there a lot of behind the scenes work that you as talent would do besides obviously doing your research and stuff like that?
No, there's a lot. Like um, some of the bloopers or how many times we've started a podcast, especially early on, where it was just you would start halfway through your intro, like this is what we're talking about, and you would screw up a word and you would curse a few times, and then we'd be like, nope, delete that. We got to restart. No, there's been a lot of rough times figuring it out, but again, as I said, reps is the most important thing, and the more you're doing it, you know, it's like the 10,000 hour rule. Like
Yeah.
if you work at anything for that amount of time, you know, you're eventually going to get good at it, but you have to put in the time and the work. So even, yeah, you mentioned research, but a lot of it's writing. Writing's key,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're the host or, you know, even the producers, you're setting up a lineup or figuring out what actuals you want. There's a lot of work that when you're just driving in the city, listening to the radio in your car, listening to talk radio and going, oh, this sounds so easy.
I
Throw
could
me
do
in the
this.
chair. Right? How many of us actually think that? I
Yeah.
definitely did before I went to the school.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting in the chair and the nerves start getting to you and you're like, why? I'm just going to talk about sports like I normally would, but it still sneaks in there. And so it's been a huge adjustment, and I can't wait to actually just get back inside the building and get going again.
Yeah. When I used to work for for JVI Sports Network in college when I was interning with the Canadian Lacrosse League. I got hooked up with these guys, and I was doing broadcasts, and I found it hilarious. Like, I went into it exactly like, as you said, the average person just listening to the radio would think. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be able to step up and do this, no worries. Not the case. I butchered my first two shows. Like, like I they're somewhere on YouTube right now, and I hope the world never discovers them. Enough people saw that butcher job of a broadcast, but it was tough, man. And like, you're constantly hearing like four people in your ear at the same time. Like, you probably have, when you do your podcast, you probably have your producer in the background being like, all right, Kurt, talk about this. All right, Kurt, here. All right, switching to camera 3. You know what I mean? And like, that'll get you, man. Like, if you start thinking about all that stuff, you have to be very selective on what you listen to. And it's easy to go the wrong way, man. There's a lot of behind the scenes. A lot of behind
Big
the
time.
scenes.
I remember the first time that Mikey got taught that he could speak to us without it coming up on the audio of the show, but he could sneak into our headsets and speak to us. You could clearly see it in our show when he did it. Like, you'd be listening along and I'd be talking, and all of a sudden there'd be a pause where you could tell I was just kind of thrown the heck off because Mikey's just in my ear all of a sudden. Or even we have a class with Scott Hart where we do essentially a Sportsnet recap show, like a highlight show at the end of the night. And if you're a reporter or someone on the desk, they're always in your ear, always, the whole show. So that's a tough thing. That's really tough.
What would be your dream job, Kurt, in broadcasting? So, I mean, obviously, if you go to the school, you have the aspiration to either be talent or like something behind the scenes, but generally to be the talent in front of the camera. What would be your thing? Would you want to be a panel guy? Would you want to be a color guy? Play by play? What would be your thing?
I think it's probably evolving every day that I'm at school. Like, growing up, all I wanted to be was Joe Bowen. Calling the Leaf games, screaming "Holy Mackinac" when Matt Sundin goes top bar, right? Like, that was the dream. And then you also realize that, well, I wanted to be that when I was 9, and now I'm 26, and that dude's still doing it, and I don't think he's going anywhere. So you have to broaden your horizons, I guess. And honestly, I'd love to be on air in some aspect. I do really enjoy, reporting classes. The desk is really fun. At the beginning, when we did on air on the desk as an anchor, I was a mess because I would get this like vein in my forehead, and I would get so nervous and like freak out. It was a mess. Like, I was in front of Ivanka Osmak, just like shaking, just a jittery disaster, dude. It was the worst experience. But yeah, as you do it more often, you get used to it. Honestly, it's hard. There's so many angles I would love to go. I think the cool thing with this industry is you're going to end up doing a lot of the jobs. Even wherever you start, you're going to be kind of behind the scenes no matter what, doing a lot of the work yourself. So the school kind of really prepares you because it teaches you almost every aspect.
Yep. So we went to school for, I would say, probably 2.5 years together. Like, the third year, I mean, it was kind of like a part-time thing. But the first 2 years, we went to school together. What was your favorite project that we did? Because you and I were a group for everything. What was your favorite project that we did? Whether we got good marks on it or bad marks on it, what was your favorite thing we did?
Well, it's kind of hard to pick something out of 2.5 years of purgatory. You know what? As much hell as our entrepreneurial assignments were, because I remember, didn't we have to do like 25-page reports,
Yeah.
and like a full business plan and all this jazz? Like the longest paper I've had to write at CSM was like 600 words. Like,
I wish.
but yeah, those were fun because those were super hard times, and I remember a feeling of survival after
Yeah.
we got through. Like, I think there was
Mhm.
the one project I was up for 36 straight hours.
Yeah, yo, we put in like insane hours. You and I would
Yeah.
just sit in front of the laptop. My laptop was always slow, which I mean, things have not changed. It's just a different laptop. And
Well,
we would just,
you would show up at 7 p.m. with your laptop, and then it'd be like 2 in the morning, and that thing would finally turn on.
yeah.
And
So
so we were one laptop going the whole time, switching back and forth.
you and I would just sit there and yeah, you would have the laptop, you'd be typing, and I would be like just feeding information. We would just be going back and forth, back and forth. And yeah, it was extremely long amounts of time. I mean, I hate to say that I definitely missed classes because of other classes, but I definitely did that. Like I was just, it was
Oh yeah.
survival. It was survival. Like, do you go to the law class, the law and sport class that you have like an 85 in, or do you go to the class that is worth 50% of your mark on the final project
I'll
and
never
it's due in
forget.
2 days?
I'll I'll never forget when we were up there for our final presentation, and Garlinski's up there, and he doesn't really know what's on the presentation because I don't think he's seen it.
Yeah.
So he raised his slides, and I think he went rogue at one point, and it felt like my head was gonna explode because I was like, I love you, dude, but you haven't done much on this right now, and you're going rogue, and it's stressing me out.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was wild. You know what? We had some good times though. I'll admit that. Oh shoot, we had some really good times. Though there was a lot of frustration. Um, we didn't. We did feel some sort of accomplishment. I remember when we did that entrepreneurial class and that smart puck, and we're like, "There's no chance this is going negative." And basically, for anybody who wants to rip off our idea and sell it online for millions of dollars, we had a puck that would track your shot, where you were shooting, the accuracy, the speed, um, everything coming off of that puck.
a training device.
It was a training device, and it was a sick training device. And guess what? Nothing.
He wasn't a fan.
She said it didn't work, and that was probably 2 days worth of work. Like there was work put into it prior, but there was like 2 days straight of just sitting in front of a computer being like, this could be brilliant, this could be brilliant, this could be brilliant. And then the second we pitch it,
Oh, I
no.
was just trying. I was
What were
just
you
trying to
guys
survive.
thinking?
I was just trying to survive at that point. Those were tough times. Tough times,
Yeah.
but a learning experience in the end, and we made it through. So good for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm proud. I'm proud of us. So what's new with Kurt Black these days? So um obviously you're doing this podcast and you're going to school. What have you been doing through quarantine to keep busy and, you know, not lose your damn mind?
Well, I started out just thinking, this could be a week, this could be 2 weeks. I think it'll be all right. I'm gonna stick it out in Toronto at first. Then I got a little lonely, and I was like, I'm gonna go home, be with the family in London for a little bit. Everything will be nice. But then I realized, God bless them, but the family drove me more crazy than anything else because I started getting fearful that I wouldn't be able to get back here to Toronto,
Mhm.
and then I was going to be trapped there with them for the whole. It's turned out now 3 months, right? And for a little back story, like it's my mother who is a little high strung, my aunt Denise who's similar, and my grandmother, who I love more than anything in the world, but she has dementia, so it is exceedingly tough right now.
Hmm.
So that household was wearing me down, and so getting back here has been nice. But I think like anyone else, it's trying not to get obese during, you know. I like to think I was in decent shape, pretty good shape, and a few weeks into isolation, especially with Uber Eats, I swear Uber Eats is more addictive than crack. I think I think that's something people need to look into because
Yeah.
I swear I was gaining some weight. I didn't like it. So it's been creative workouts, it's been long walks, a lot of self-reflection, probably honestly good for the mental health. It was either
Yeah.
going to go one of two ways, right? I was either going to lose my mind or be okay, and I think I'm coming out of it better, to be perfectly
So
honest.
so you've come out better mentally. Um, physically, you're like Eddie
I'm
Lacy when he
coming.
returned to training camp for the Green Bay Packers the one year, or
No, no. Maybe I was like Eddie Lacy a month and a half ago.
okay,
Ever since I got my weighted skipping rope, and I've been going on like 16-kilometer walks a day.
yeah,
Um, I've been doing okay. I've been doing yoga. I've been working out with weights here. I'm back on the grind. The abs have returned. Life's regaining some normalcy. Now they just need to open up the patios like the rest of Ontario, and
yeah.
everything will be okay.
Okay, can we cue the soundboard for the applause when you said that we've returned back to normal? The abs have returned. Woo! Oh man, yeah, no
That was probably
patios
my reaction.
patios is a major thing, buddy. I think we're all missing it. We're missing Coronas, not coronavirus. We're missing,
Too soon, Kennedy. Too soon.
yeah, we're missing Modelos and models.
And
we're missing beer and tacos.
Mexican food and mojitos.
Mm,
Mm, God damn.
I
I
think
might
we
have to
gotta.
walk. I might have to walk down to Kensington tomorrow. Pick up some enchiladas. Mm.
If you want good tacos, 7 Lives in Kensington Market.
Well,
Best taco I've ever had.
you're going against the Mexican place I just was talking about in Kensington. So
What's it called, bro?
I don't know, man.
Any- Anybody from Queen West, Dundas College probably knows about it. Anybody who
I'm
frequents Kensington.
I'm usually in a certain state when I go into that place. So all I remember is the food's fantastic
Yeah,
and the beer is always cold.
yeah.
And those are those are two important details
Those are
about a restaurant.
that's important, man. That's important.
Slightly.
Um, so any like big soccer news that we should know about as casual fans, or I guess for the even more intense fans?
Well, soccer's kind of leading the frickin' charge, bringing back sports. Um, Serie A is just returned. Well, it's returning. It's returned this weekend. Bundesliga's been playing for weeks. That's why everyone's got their been drinking their beer out of boots on Saturday morning, right? Watching Bayern and Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
All the leagues in Europe are starting to come back. MLS might even be doing like a tournament instead of a
Mm,
season, which I
hmm.
think will be kind of cool.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. And then the biggest news in Canadian, football is Alphonso Davies, and it will remain to be Alphonso Davies forever. I
Yeah.
think. Like, he's just named the ninth most valuable footballer in all of Europe at 119 million pounds.
19, right?
He's only 19 years old, and this is his first year at Bayern Munich, where they kind of signed him as a project. They knew he had all this talent, this speed, this raw ability. They didn't expect him to be playing left back for them this year. They signed a guy for 88 million, which was their record amount of money they've ever spent on a player.
Yeah.
And that dude is sat on the bench all year because Davies has been so good. So, like, he's a god.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about the? Obviously, you can't have fans in the stadiums, and that sucks. But it is obvious for what reason right now. But all these crowd noises. I mean, for the game, I think it was last week. There was a game where they put graphics in the crowd. I mean, that's just for soccer. In baseball, they've done sex dolls. They've done stuffed animals. I don't think the sex dolls thing was on purpose, but they did it. What are your thoughts on stuff in the crowd, including sex dolls and baseball?
Well, you kind of read my mind because if you didn't bring it up, I was going to mention the sex dolls. I saw that too. I don't know if we're allowed to have the sex dolls for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You know, why do they have to be just used for sex? You know, they just look like human beings, right? No one's having sex with them. Okay.
No, they just have large mouths.
Well, put a mask on them. No one will see it. They should be wearing a mask anyway. But anyway, I don't know. I don't like really the crowd music. Like, I don't want them to pump in crowd sound. That'll just look or sound so weird. You know, the arena's empty. I don't want to hear people screaming. That's just like, ugh, it's eerie. It's like ghosts.
Yeah.
No thanks. I've liked where they've sold placement for fans where they take a picture of themselves in their kit,
Mm-hmm.
and then they print out a cutout of it and they put it in the seats. That's fine. You know, it raises some money for charities or the club, or makes the fans. You know, I think fan involvement is the biggest thing right now.
Yeah.
So that's a great way of getting the fans involved. They feel like they're still there. They're still supporting their club. Any way they can do that is the right way.
I think I'm with you. It's yeah, it is eerie just having nothing in the crowd and hearing noise. And I think they have to take a different approach to it. Like, Kurt, you played football, you played hockey as well, but for football, I mean, when you played those games, there wouldn't have been that many fans in the crowd. Like, there was parents and stuff, but it wasn't extremely loud, so you could hear what was going on the field at all times. Do you think that kind of gives like a different element that maybe we're not used to, but at the same time it brings it back to, okay, this is like still a game, this is still a sport, and it kind of shows you more like the strategy behind it, I guess, opposed to, like, I watched UFC the other night and I was impressed because even though you don't have the people in the crowd, you can hear what the corners are saying. You can hear everything around. You can even hear the commentators screaming. So, like, what do you think about that in regards to soccer? Like, does it show a different game than normal?
I think it just brings it back to a very natural state. You know,
Mhm.
as you said, like, growing up playing soccer, it was just my friends and family and, you know, watching the games. And with no one really watching, there's a lot of communication. It's like any sport. You know, the best teams really communicate with each other on the pitch. And a lot of the broadcasters, you know, maybe I don't like it because it's kind of annoying, but they've gone on and on about, listen to all these different languages speaking about the pitch, like as if we didn't know that this was happening already. It does affect it in a great way for the players, though, because you don't have fans deafening out, you know, your calls. So there's communication's not going to be interrupted. Now, both teams are going to easily be able to hear it more easily, right? But I think that's great. Another factor for soccer is a lot of the times the fans are a massive influence, you know, more so than I'd say in hockey, or, you know, as good as the Raptors basketball fans are here in Toronto, like, I would say soccer fans are tenfold even than basketball. Like, it's such an impact that they can have. And one example I heard was, and I agree with it, that a lot of the times if you're playing at home and you're being a little bit more defensive, but you need a goal or it's tied or something like that, usually the fans will say, they'll start jeering you. They'll start going, hey, get up there, start being aggressive. get some shots on net. But the fans aren't there to get after them. So they're being a little bit more strategic. They're being a little bit more cautious and tactical. So just little changes. The fighting's been the best. Like they got to be smart about that. Henry Cejudo was saying that he had trick words with his corner, and because he could hear what Cruz in his corner were talking about during the fight, so he knew what was going on.
Do you think it's like in other sports it's going to become more of a thing without the fans, where it's like, obviously we both watched NFL, CFL football. Football in general, the coaches will have play calls, but they won't actually say the calls often. They'll just do like a hand motion. You know what I mean? Like they'll beat their chest, or they'll throw the peace sign up. There's so much stuff you can do, but without without vocally saying it. Do you think that's going to start to become more of a thing? Because obviously there is plays in soccer. There's different schemes that you need to do. Do you think that's going to be like something they may go with in the future, or is it just like, no, not a chance?
No, I think it'll kind of stay the same, just because, you can do that in American football because everyone's speaking English. You have to get little signals going on. But in European football, there's people from across the globe speaking every language. And, communication, I think, is still key. I don't really think, and it's such a fast sport.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be running up the pitch giving sign language and gang signs out the window, So I just don't think that would work so well.
Cristiano Ronaldo, why are you throwing gang signs at me, bro? You son!
He was just asking for a sub, He was like that. He's like that South African sign languager. Did you ever hear about that guy?
No.
This guy was the sign language interpreter for Mandela for a long time. Okay, long time. Did it for all these world dignitaries that came in. Did it for Mandela many times. Everyone. They found out later he did not know sign language. He was just bullshitting it the whole time, dude.
I think the rappers that get sign language people, like, man, those sign language people have to be so fast. Like Snoop Dogg's more chill, but like there is people, like there is rappers who go very fast. Like Eminem probably has a sign language person who's just like
maybe we should research these people, and they're like this guy.
Yeah.
They just given the same signals all the time.
It's either incredible or it's just a big lie. maybe we should ask someone who speaks sign language. Oh man. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Good luck to you and the boys from the relegation zone. I hope you get back to school soon so that you can kind of return back to regular life there. Go enjoy a Corona and an enchilada. How about that, buddy?
I'll skip the Corona. But yeah, really thank you, Kennedy, for having me on. It was a blast. Good banter. Anytime, buddy.
Yes, sir. All right, man. We'll be in touch. I'll talk to you, bud. Okay.
Sounds
Peace.
good. Take care.